Awesome. And welcome to The Breath, The Whole Breath, and Nothing But the Breath 2.0. Sincerely, thank you for investing in yourself and investing in this video presentation. I will strongly urge you to pause the video, grab a pen, grab a paper. If you have a timer, whether it's your smartphone or an egg timer, you may want to grab that. And as strange as it sounds, you never know. But if you have a pulse oximeter, you may want to grab that as well. None of these are deal breakers, but throughout the video, I may be asking you to pause the video to participate in an exercise or two or to write things down. That way it's just a little more interactive and hopefully you can get more from the video. Let's go ahead and begin. My name is Brian. I am the founder and the co-owner of Winter Garden Yoga, and this is The Breath, The Whole Breath, and Nothing But the Breath 2.0. None of the information shared in this presentation is intended to be medical advice. Please do not interpret it as such. Always seek the guidance of your doctor or healthcare provider. You assume any and all responsibility for any and or all harm you may cause yourself from voluntarily following this program. Okay, disclaimer's out of the way. And just a little bit about me. I first got into yoga right around 2003 or 2004. And what struck me about yoga, in my mind, it's one of very few physical activities that focus on physical activity, breath, and meditation. But it's the breath work, except for maybe swimming, of course, and maybe free diving. I've never heard of a physical activity where breathing is emphasized or even taught as a separate activity. But that's what makes yoga very unique, is the breath work. Once I got into yoga, I got into strength training as well, and I just wanted to improve everything. I wanted more endurance and more energy. And that's when I took a deeper dive, no pun intended, into breathing. And this happened a few years ago. I'd seen a documentary about a fella who could hold his breath for 22 minutes underwater. And maybe like you, I thought if you held your breath too long, you'd get brain damage or you'd black out or die, stuff like that. But it's not true, because this fella held the world record for 22 minutes. And I think someone else just beat that at 27 minutes underwater on a single breath of air. And this is what got me to study breathing. And just for my own personal record, I was working my way up to a 5-minute breath hold above ground. That's called dry static apnea. And I almost got there. I'm not sure if it was really 4 minutes and 53 seconds, but it was very close. I just missed it by that much. But the knowledge I gained from learning how to breathe and learning how to hold my breath, some of that I'm going to share with you today. Don't worry, we won't do a 5-minute breath hold, but we're going to get all the benefits from breathing properly. So what's in it for you? More positive energy. You'll manage stress like a boss, whether it's at work or just day-to-day living. You'll be better at your sport. You'll have more energy and more endurance, whatever it is, whatever your task is, if it's a sport or just plain old living. Avoid illness and recover quicker. Reduce inflammation. Manage pain like a boss. You'll develop a Zen attitude, Jedi mental power, ninja level awareness, and boost overall wellness and health. And this is all based on science. This isn't conjecture or just, he said, she said. There are clinical studies to prove this stuff. Okay, so what we're going to look at today, breath awareness. We're going to break down the breathing apparatus. We're going to control the breath. And that's one thing that I learned for sure. It breaks down, basically, it breaks down to two schools of thought. Under breathing, and this is stuff like yoga. Most of the yoga breathing is under breathing. There's also Buteyko breathing techniques. That's under breathing. Under breathing, for lack of a better term, it is as it sounds. You're trying to breathe less and less. Some people, they inhale, exhale 20 times per minute. That would be considered over breathing. If we can get our breath down somewhere between 10 or even better, 5 breaths, somewhere between 5 and 10 breaths a minute, we're under breathing. It shows that we have a functional breathing mechanism, etc. But we will look at overbreathing as well. Overbreathing, the other end of the spectrum, this is Wim Hof, holotropic breathing, bioenergetics, soma breathing. There's nothing wrong or bad about overbreathing, but there are different precautions we need to take, and we'll go over that when we get there. And we'll look at combining both techniques in a single practice. Very common in yoga, and also common in like the Wim Hof method and soma breathing, etc. So breath awareness. This is where you may need to pause the video, but first, let me ask you, write it down. But if I were to give one instruction, take a deep breath. Don't overthink it. Just take a deep breath. What happens when you do it? Pause the video if you need to, it's okay. What I'm looking for is when you inhale, take that deep breath, where do you breathe? Did you inhale through your nose? Did you inhale through your mouth? Did your chest lift up? Sometimes we're not even aware. That's why this is called breath awareness. So if you need to, pause the video, don't overthink it, take another breath, and just write down that you inhale through your nose, but your chest lifts, or you inhale through your mouth and your shoulders go up, or maybe you don't. The key is to be aware. Now, the next part of breath awareness, we're going to see where our body oxygen level is. This test comes out of Buteyko. That also comes out of Patrick McEwen's work. It's called a BOLT score, B-O-L-T, body oxygen level test. And here's what we try. I'll demonstrate it for you, and then you pause the video and do it yourself. I'm going to grab a timer. We'll take a normal inhale. Now, so here's a normal inhale. Normal inhale, normal exhale. This is not a normal inhale and a normal exhale. Okay, so normal inhale, normal exhale. Pinch your nose. So you hold on the exhale, pinch your nose, and then time, how long it takes until you feel the need to breathe. So the goal is, you're not going for a world record. When you release your nostrils, you should just resume normal breathing. There shouldn't be a big recovery, gasping or gulping. It should be pretty seamless. So I'm going to try my best here. Going to inhale normal, exhale normal, hold the exhale, pinch my nose. So about 32 seconds. I'll say about 30 seconds because I probably could have let go a little sooner. But you see, my breath is pretty normal. I'm not gasping or gulping. I didn't pass out. So, how did it feel on a scale from 0 to 10? 10 being super difficult, 0 being easy. Honestly, that was probably a 1 or a 2. I probably should have let go sooner, so it felt like a 0. So today, my Bolt score is about 30 seconds. So when you're ready, pause the video, follow the steps, write it down. Remember, it's not a competition, it's just data. So go ahead and do that now. Awesome. Now, the score it's a little tricky because we don't want to become obsessed, but hopefully, as you practice the exercises we're going to go through today, and you slowly, gradually get better and better, you should see your Bolt score improve. But it takes a little bit of time because you have to adapt to new habits, and your body has to adjust to that. So do your best. Try not to be too frustrated. Don't be too hard on yourself. But if you look in the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, if you've been practicing regularly, notice, hopefully, that your score is improving. Now, the breath breakdown. Most people breathe up into their collarbones. It's called clavicular breathing. If you take your fingertips and just barely touch your collarbones, if you inhale, if you feel your collarbones rise, chances are you're breathing in the upper lobes of your lungs. The upper lobes of the lungs, that's where fight or flight is stored, chemically speaking. It's called the sympathetic nervous system. This is fight or flight. So if you've got to run out of a burning building, if you have to outrun a predator, you're going to switch to fight or flight. And we need fight or flight in order to survive. The trouble is, a lot of people live in fight or flight. So they are constantly stressed. They may not even realize it, but they're bathing their system in stress hormones. And you may know people who are just real jittery and jumpy, and they're always on edge. Could be that they're living in fight or flight. We're trying to get to the lower lobes of the lungs, and this is where relaxation resides. Rest and digest. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we don't want to live in rest and digest and never ever be able to go to fight or flight. We need both. But most of the time, we want to be in the lower lobes of the lungs. How do we get there? So, number 1 is always nasal breathe. You can try it for yourself. If you close your mouth and just breathe in through your nose, you may notice that you start to access your lungs a little more fuller. Maybe you feel your breath go deeper into your lungs. We want to always nasal breathe because of nitric oxide production. Without getting too scientific, without going into too many rabbit holes, we produce nitric oxide in our nasal cavity when we breathe in and out through the nose. Nitric oxide helps open up the nasal passages. There are many benefits to nitric oxide. If you do an internet search on the benefits of nasal nitric oxide, you'll get a whole bunch of scientific data to let you know clearly that you want to breathe in and out through your nose, get that nitric oxide going, get your sinuses open, get your blood vessels open, get your lungs open. It's very important. When you breathe in through your nose, the air gets cleaned. Of course, we have nose hair, we've got mucous membranes, but we also have different sort of chambers that are in the sinuses, and it cleans the air we take in. Nasal breathing also warms the air and moistens the air so it doesn't irritate our lungs. It helps regulate the breathing. It's easy to take in a deep breath through your mouth, open wide, take a deep breath through your nose. It slows it down. As we mentioned earlier, it helps access the lower lobes of your lungs. So, what happens if we can't breathe in and out through our nose? So there's a couple of things to consider. One, the mechanism of nasal breathing is use it or lose it. So that means if you don't nasal breathe, the mechanism will shut down. But if you begin to nasal breathe, the mechanism will open up. Use it or lose it. Now, in some cases, such as a deviated septum, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing other than surgery that can be done to fix your deviated septum. I suspect that I've got a slight deviation on my right side, because you might be able to hear it right now, because more often than not, my right side is always clogged, but I can still get air in and out of both nostrils. See a doctor and get it fixed. Don't put it off any longer. Neti pot is it looks like a little watering spout, like if you're going to water flowers. Really small handheld little pot with a spout on it. You fill it with warm water and saline solution. You tilt your head and it flushes out your nasal cavity. You can pick those up pretty much anywhere, any drugstore. You can also purchase them online. Breathe Right strips are the equivalent. Those are, it's an adhesive strip that you wear across the bridge of your nose, and it helps open up your nostrils. I'll use the Breathe Right strips at night. And this exercise here, the nasal decongestion, this comes from Patrick McEwen. If you do this exercise, and if your nasal passages open up, there's a very good chance that you can continue to nasal breathe. You may or may not need medical intervention. Might take a little bit of work, but it shows that there's hope. So for this nasal decongestion exercise, we inhale, exhale, hold the exhale, pinch your nose, and just move your skull around. When you feel the urge to breathe, let go and resume normal breathing. So you might be able to hear it in my right nostril. It's a little bit clogged up. So let's do this maybe 2 more times. If you need to do it more times, press pause. If you don't need it at all, fast forward, we'll get to the next part. But if you want to follow along, inhale normal, exhale normal, hold the exhale, pinch your nostrils, move your head. When you feel the urge to breathe, just let go, resume normal breathing. So you may have to do this 5 or 6 times. Do you hear how it cleared out my right nostril? Yay! Hopefully it worked for you too. If you need to stay here and do a couple more rounds, pause the video and please do so. Otherwise, we'll move on. The other one is tape your mouth shut. Now, this is something, I forget what they call this, micropore. This is micropore medical tape. It's not very sticky. It's not super strong. You don't have to tape your mouth shut like a hostage. This is something James Nestor figured out. He's the author of a book called Breath. Excellent book. Please check it out. He suggests just about an inch by inch square, and you place it right over the center of your mouth here. That way you can still ventilate out the sides. If you feel overwhelmed, you can push the tape off with your tongue. It's not sealing your jaw shut. It's just basically keeping your mouth closed, but it also helps align your jaw, and it helps you focus on nasal breathing. If you try taping your mouth shut, be sure, test it when you're feeling very, very safe. If you're reading a book, tape your mouth shut, breathe through your nose. If you're doing dishes, tape your mouth shut and breathe through your nose, and gradually work your way up to perhaps napping with your mouth taped shut, and then eventually sleeping with your mouth taped shut. You want to nasal breathe as much as possible. Mouth breathing can be very, very destructive for your teeth, your gums, lungs. It has a whole cascade of negative effects. That's why it's super important. Nasal breathe. There's an expression: the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating. Okay, so we know breath breakdown, always nasal breathe. Number 2 is try to breathe in and out of your abdomen. So if you take your hands like this, palms face down, and the web of your index finger and your thumb, you kind of place them around your kidneys. You sit up tall, breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe in through your nose, you should feel your tummy push your hands apart. And when you exhale, you feel your hands come closer together. So your inhale, your tummy expands. Exhale, your tummy contracts. That should be about 70% of your capacity to fill your torso. Now, if you get these 2 steps down, always nasal breathe, breathe in and out through your abdomen, you're good. You can stop this video right now and go forth and be awesome. You will be 175 yards of most people on planet Earth. A lot of people have breathing dysfunction. But if we can breathe in and out through the nose and start to move the abdomen, we're setting ourselves up for success. Now, to be clear, all of the breathing takes place in your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is the muscle that separates your lungs from your guts. But when we expand the abdomen, it creates room for the diaphragm to drop and therefore the lungs to have more length, so you can get the air into the deeper lobes of the lungs. No matter what, even if you're breathing up in your clavicles, that's still diaphragmatic breathing, but it's really shallow. We're trying to get deeper into the lungs. Nasal breathing and abdomen breathing get you there. Now, once you've gotten the abdomen breath down, you can mess around a little bit by expanding your ribs. If you take your hands and move them up just a little bit to your bottom ribs, you inhale through your tummy, feel your tummy expand. Then feel your ribs expand a little. Exhale, ribs close, tummy closes. Inhale, tummy, a little bit of ribs. Exhale, ribs, tummy. And this is just helping you get more and more air into your torso. The chest would be about 10%, and then you top it off at the throat, 5%. Now, you and I will probably never go 100%. This is what it's called the full breath. So you inhale. You fill up everything, fill your entire torso, and you top it off at your throat. That's a 10 out of 10, 100%. But that's reserved for very, very, very specific training. Usually free divers. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't know of anyone else that would have to take a full deep breath. It's not for everyday life. You and I, for the most part, we're going to be at what's called an optimal breath. And that's when you fill your abdomen and maybe move a couple of ribs. On a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being full, we want to be at about an 8. So everyday activities, yoga, jogging, weight training, all that stuff should be at about an 8. Now, of course, if you start to exert yourself, your breathing's going to change. Your breath is going to get shallow. You might get into the upper lobes, all of which is fine. We just don't want to live there. We want to recover as quickly as possible and get back into the lower lobes. Okay. So here are a few exercises that will help increase your lung capacity.